And here we see the maps, Blood Run, Molten Falls, and Blood Covenant taking on the final match. Reminder that the winner moves on to the grand finals tomorrow. Gentlemen, what do you think about this, seeing Blood Run, right off the bat?
It's a very CIS pick. Sorry, 40.
No, I was going to say, it's a very CIS pick. I think we might see a very slow game being played. Galena, terrifying on Blood Run. Lots of places to hide totems, get that overstack, but Ranger's really good at being able to get in between both items. You could start off on the Mega and just Dire Orb your way up to the Heavy. I think it's going to be a good game, but it might be very slow.
Yeah, even on Molten Falls as well, Base has a plan up his sleeve with the Visor, so with the piercing sight, at least, if he has to play defensive, he can figure out where he is and make the rotations when required and necessary. But even for Blood Covenant, Athena, it's been part of the meta for a very long time now. I'm not surprised CNZ actually chose that pick, but at least he can play the catch-up game whenever necessary.
And Base has full medium champions right down the line. Lots of mirror matchups coming through, which will play out in a much more positional, strategical duel once again, as we saw, no bogusness with heavy stacks or light stacks and weird abilities, pretty standard throughout.
Yep, this is going to be a great matchup. I'm excited. I mean, got to throw it out there too. We saw, if I would have asked you the question at the beginning of the weekend, and I would have said, all right, can any of the challengers come out of their challenger game and then fight their way to, the top of the upper bracket? What do you think? What would your responses have been to me?
No.
I wouldn't have said CNZ would have got this far, but I've always been a fan of CNZ. Ever since stage 2, I thought he had the potential to take it a lot further, so it's really good to see how he's doing that now.
All right, well, it sounds like we are about ready to hop in. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Base versus CNZ, and bringing in the action live from the sidelines, it's Catch Up and Flee.
Right, so as we go into this next matchup, I do think that there's a real anticipation that things could get quite slow-paced here, Flee. These are two players that are extremely careful. They're talented all round, and certainly I would not say that both of these players are completely hyper-defensive. They're just careful, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Base, known to be that defensive powerhouse of a player, once he gets a hold of a lead, he is unlikely to ever give it up, especially on the map that is Blood Run, one of his home bases, as he starts off with some pretty chunky tribal damage off the bat. No delay between the items. Heavy, Mega at the exact same time. The biggest problem that Base is facing right now is the lack of weaponry. Doesn't have an LG, doesn't have a railgun. CNZ does, and that makes him so much more capable of taking these long distance fights and really pressuring Base, even though he did most of the opening damage with that tribal.
Sometimes it can take a very long time for this first frag to be secured if both players are kind of approaching the match this way, really. We have got that initial start where they're both taking an item each. CNZ technically commanding the center of the map, but as long as Base is able to hold out with this extra totem, he's pretty comfortable for stack. The one thing he's not going to be comfortable for is ammo, because if he runs out of rockets in somewhere like here, there's not a lot of potential for him to get some more ammo just yet, until they can push in.
As predicted, a slow start to this map. Mega is up. CNZ delayed that for a tremendous amount of time. That's a good rail. That one rail is going to make Base think twice before moving on to the Heavy, and it should give CNZ an opening. Yeah, the one shot, that 90 damage output right then and there prevented Base from comfortably getting onto the next major item, and it allowed CNZ to use his ability to get right up there and then secure both major items. Now Base is gonna see the damage from that totem that his opponent just ran through, and even though it won't change the outcome of the battle, it will tell him exactly where CNZ is at and gives him that freedom, that information to position himself in a better, more proactive spot.
It was a nice little totem that Base has been able to drop right near Rocket Room. So he might actually put down a second. There's a lot of stack to be picked up from there if he has to retreat, and it's a bit of a multiple win because it's unlikely CNZ is going to go in there. Normally, he could go out of his way to just make sure there are or aren't totems. Looks like he has cleared them out, which is nice. Very important to make sure you can't give Base that setup. The rail doesn't hit its mark, but the Mega gets taken. Base is going to have timing on it all the same. He's currently in position for this Heavy. Does Base push in? He has got the Dire Orb. And it's that goal of controlling the center of the map. Here comes the rocket jump. That missed rail was going to be an easy pickup for base.
CNZ so far playing this perfectly, knowing exactly what will happen if he makes one mistake and gives base the lead to work with. Base, though, messing up slightly himself. Unfortunately for CNZ, that rocket whiffed his opponent, didn't do any damage, and base is starting to pile things up a bit. Momentum is building. He knows exactly where CNZ is right now, but still, the Estonian does manage to get out of the room. Is he gonna go for it? Very aggressive orb, but this is going to be an LG fight. CNZ breaks away first, doesn't want to commit in full, just wants to get position onto the Mega, but that rail is going to force him out of the room. He has to restack one way or another. Looks like he might just sit down at the blood pool for a bit, allowing base full control of the map once again.
Back to this careful game. I gotta say, like, well, even though we have started to see Blood Run become a bit more of an aggressive map as time has gone on in the Pro League, with these two players, this is more of a traditional style for them. Yeah, I think we have to always use that word of discipline when describing both CNZ and base. They have similar styles to one another.
Of course, they also know each other quite well, both members of the B100 esports team. Indeed, this is our second teammate matchup of the day. Earlier we saw the Maestro boys, Wenger and Razy, take each other on, but now it's all about base and CNZ fighting for a spot in the next round of the Quake World Championships. Base, after getting off to a bit of a rocky start at one point, he is now firmly in control. Hiding those totems, looking to set up that consistent overstack, the Mega in your pocket. CNZ playing this well though, not giving up too many angles and still dishing out a fair amount of damage.
I mean, base has been the hidden killer of many a finals bracket in the Pro League. He's just gone from strength to strength, and this would be a great tournament for him to really get that big result in. And he has all the capabilities of being able to go the distance. Base sitting on a superior stack. We're about to hit that halfway mark now, the 5-minute warning. 20 seconds, we're going to be there. And it looks like there hasn't been a lot of action. Both players have been incredibly reserved. And there hasn't been an opportunity for a giant push. CNZ has used his orbs to try and control some of the items, or take some of the items. But because of base's giant stack, he just hasn't been able to get the damage that has said, right, now is my time to go in. They've kind of split the map in two, in effect.
Better half of the map definitely going towards base though. He has all of the major items to his name, can just keep that monster stack all nice and high. Even has his totems at the ready, so whenever CNZ does manage to do damage, there we go, getting punished heavily. And this is just part of base's plan. He knows that he doesn't need Mega to reach that overstack, that 175 points of health. Pushing in aggressively though, CNZ has to use the ult to get away. Yeah, doesn't get very far. Base shooting just slightly too early. CNZ looks like he will manage to escape and break away for the time being. Base does not want his opponent to get away now.
CNZ is going to have to play this so patiently. He's going to sit there and listen to see which side of the map base goes towards. This might be the opportunity though. Oh, we heard that. As we now move in, CNZ on death's door. It's not even going to take just a rail to take him out. Anything significant will deal with this. Yeah. CNZ has to wait for the lights to come back. Base has heard that. He knows now how much health CNZ is roughly going to have. But he can't hear him moving around, so he knows there's a really good chance he's still here. Who's going to be able to bite first, I wonder?
That is such a smart game, because CNZ, knowing of course that the items haven't been picked up, he could hear Heavy when it was taken, so he knows that Base is lurking somewhere just around the corner, expecting him to step out of that comfort zone, out of the doorway, and going for that small armor.
Ooh.
He does secure it, does land a good rocket in return as well. Now Base, firmly in control for pretty much the past 5 minutes of this map, but completely unable to actually catch CNZ out and secure himself the frag.
And Base, CNZ, he's on his tippy toes at the moment. There is not one single peep coming out of CNZ so far.
Yep.
While Base continues to run and take all of the items, CNZ is well aware of just how much stack Base is going to be working on. Which means that if he is getting this damage, he has to make sure he's hitting maximum every step of the way. The push and the rail, that's bad news for CNZ, because now He is really stuck in a bad situation. Base has the right idea.
Oh.
Shutting down the teleporter. Oh dear, he's gonna have no choice, and he's done.
Yeah.
He's dead. You already know. You already know. What a play from Base.
Base is such a smart player, just deciding not to go for the chase, but instead just breaking away, jumping across to Tribolt, and then booby trapping the exit of that teleporter, knowing that he already had 2 other totems at the same time, so he would get that damage boost, that supercharged totem explosion, and he just forced CNZ on through. Base, such a methodical, beautiful map for him so far. Really one of the absolute kings of Blood Run, of this defensive, reactive playstyle. And now it's all up to CNZ. He has 2 minutes left to make a comeback happen, completely clueless about his opponent's whereabouts. He's going to take a bad rail for that gap in map awareness. Okay. Well, that just happened then.
Yeah, apologies,
CNZ.
sorry. I just had to mute myself so I could sneeze, and I forgot to unclick the mute button, so... I've only been muted for about 20 seconds, that's all good. I was going to say the importance of being able to really get these last-minute frags and the risk you take. You know, when you do play these crazy patient games, it goes down to 1 frag. Well aware that all it takes is 1 fight to go wrong. Speaking of things going wrong, though... Oh, the Tribolt! That's going to save his skin.
I mean, that is one of the risks when you're playing the game the way Base did. Yes, you are in constant control, but if you're not getting frags, things can go wrong so quickly. You're playing a Ranger. That man has a ton of mobility and has that burst damage potential as well. He can rocket jump, taking next to no damage, and then orb right into your face when it matters the most. So Base, by playing this with a 1-game lead or a tied game for most of the map, actually, he is constantly putting himself at risk for that sudden turnaround. And CNZ managing to pull through with just that. And with just 40 seconds left, I think we might as well be looking at the sudden death yet.
I mean, it looks like we're going that way, doesn't it? An immediate rocket to start the fight, just at the magic time, because CNZ's forced to retreat. Sorry, Base is forced to retreat. We spent so long watching Base, I got confused for a second. And he now takes the heavy. So just like that, I mean, the swing of power goes in the favor of CNZ. Now he holds both items, he's just got the Mega, the perfect timing will exist now. And, understandably, we're entering a sudden death. Next frag is going to win the map. This is the exact map I expected to see, Flea.
Now, can CNZ play this as methodically as his opponent has been for these final few minutes? I think the biggest advantage that CNZ has is that Ranger orb. There have been many situations that we saw where Base tried to chase him down when he was in control, but he was just unable to catch him. Oh, here we go! Good rockets! This is all about CNZ! Wow! He goes orb, rocket, and just like that, he turns things around and secures map 1. Catch up. Are we going to CNZ, the man who fought for his life in the relegation game, make it all the way through to the grand finals day?
So, there is all possibility, because CNZ has been able to do okay versus Base in the past, right? Like, this wouldn't be the first time in a competitive setting. So you look at the bracket, and the second I saw Base versus CNZ, my first thought was, hang on a minute, CNZ on a really amazing day could totally do this. I will admit, though, it would have been, and it would be, one of the most not predicted results of the World Championship. His journey has been ridiculous anyway. That reverse sweep versus Garpy, that clutch factor against Cypher. If he's able to conquer Base as well, that is just a breakout performance if I've ever seen it. This is like, every player has that one performance that puts them on the map. Yep. This would be that one for CNZ.
Absolutely, and that was painful to see from Base's perspective right there, waiting so patiently for all that time. And then the fraction of a second he decides to drop down with the rail.
Ouch.
CNZ just walks around the corner. If he would have waited half a second longer, CNZ would have walked into plain view and there was nothing that he could have really done about Base. But the drop down just ended up messing him up completely. And so that means that we are moving into the second map of this series, potentially the decider, the final one as well.
Here's the thing, Flea. Sorry to cut you off, by the way. The next map is Molten Falls, which is a very good map for CNZ. And I actually really want to bring attention to the picks and bans that we've actually seen today anyway. Just the matches that you and I have casted today. It's been Awoken, Keep, and Molten. And then after that, it was Awoken, Keep, Blood Covenant. There's an entirely different style of map with these two players, because the first map was Blood Run, of course. Molten Falls up next. If we go to a decider, it's going to be Blood Covenant. The way that both of these players approach Duel, I'm not really surprised at all to see these three maps get picked, because they're wide maps, they're ranged heavy. You can be so calculated with your positions and, you know, listening out for where someone is, setting up these traps. The kind of ranged map really helps both of these players, and as we go into Molten Falls, which has historically been a very, very strong map for CNZ, a 2-0 would be ridiculous. But, I mean, it could definitely happen here. What do you think, chat? Let me know on social media, hashtag Quake Pro League and QuakeCon at home, as we now go into our next matchup with Base and CNZ. Is CNZ going to make history for himself and make it through?
I mean, there's a lot of Base fans in chat I saw before we jumped into this match. One of the Russian players, of course, got a pretty sizable fan base. I'm liking the start right here. The mega delay by Base, tremendously. 10 seconds delaying that opening item. If he comes out on top now, this could really set him up for an early start. CNZ though, holding his ground. Good amount of LG damage, sending him straight back.
Well, the one weapon he's missing is the rocket, but he doesn't really need a rocket in this position. The rail and the LG definitely favored until the heavy is about to spawn. Speaking of which, heavy is going to go in the favor of CNZ, moving towards Mega. And he's likely to be able to get both items. He's so quick that Base can't do a shred of damage. So CNZ has the largest stack so far, but against a Visor, you've always got to play that crazy game. No, dropping down, taking a bunch of damage. Thankfully, he did hit that first rail, and his superior stack does allow him to keep the push going. All the same.
That was a risky drop, though.
Oh,
that went about as well as it could have.
He missed that shot. Oh.
Yeah, he absolutely could have gotten destroyed right there as he is about to right now. Base, so much damage on the LG and Base. Right now, the piercing sight has run out, so CNZ probably can slip away, make his retreat, but it will be Base picking up the major item. The Mega goes his way. CNZ should go down right here.
Wait a minute.
Hang on. Yeah.
Oh, not enough.
Yeah.
Super shotgun, but he has got him weak. He's likely to run towards rail, so he knows how much health he's likely to pick up from here. And it's not the end of the world for CNZ, because he spawns in a great position to take that heavy. As he jumps down, where's the next path going to be? Piercing sight is ready to go. He's got a rail. And he needs that information now. The Mega's been taken. Does he pop it? Or is he listening out first? Looks like he has enough information. I think he's satisfied. Ooh, bad miss. Both sides. Stalemate.
Oof. I think Base shot to mask the noise.
I think he did.
Of the piercing sight, so shooting the floor, creating a bit of a rocket explosion right there, just to give his opponent little information to work with as to that ability being used. Now CNZ playing a very passive match already. Doesn't even show his face once while the piercing sight was active. And now the Estonian player actually with a bit of a stack advantage. Not tremendously so, but he does pick up the Mega. Heavy will be the next major item. Good play from Base. Piercing sight helping him line up that shot perfectly. CNZ is gonna go in aggressively. Shaft on shaft. Who's stronger? And it will be Base just shutting down the offense from CNZ.
Armor advantage was real. And just hitting an absolutely beautiful string of LG. All the same. Base managing those hourglasses phenomenally, so he has a piercing sight oh so often. Nice little turnaround rail just to shut that one down. It's actually going to be an opportunity for Base to push in and get a little bit of extra damage, and now he knows that CNZ is playing from behind the piercing sight for the extra information, but he's going to have a really smart idea over how much health CNZ does not have, and this should by all means be a free heavy pickup. Big delay between the two items too. Is CNZ even going to be able to fight for this Mega? Is Base going to try and fight for the Mega? Looks like he's waiting. Timing the hourglasses as well. What a beast.
Base. Mega will be going his way. Neat little jump just to cut the corner, save himself a little bit of time, faking the rocket jump, trying to force CNZ and bait him out towards LG. I'm liking these plays by Base. First masking the sound of that ability, now the fakey rocket jump. The purpose of that was to force CNZ down from that shotgun into the LG hallway, which is what Base was then pining for to meet his opponent and catch him by surprise.
I'm thoroughly enjoying what Base is doing with those kind of small mind games. That's a lovely frag. When you play the way these two players do, that one single frag is so important, and there is so much setup that goes into every one they obtain. Those tiny details, like a fake rocket jump, masking a piercing sight, it means a great deal to someone like Base, where every frag counts the way he plays it.
I think both of these players are just invested in a long-term strategy. They don't just want to catch their opponent once and then finish it off right there. They want to get map superiority, fake them out, do damage over time, and then when they put themselves in a stronger position, just that one sleight of hand, the juke can give them such an advantage to tie things up as CNZ goes down once more. Base using the piercing sight to perfection, getting his opponent perfectly in his sight. CNZ, the sneaky drop down, wanted to get at least one more rail on Base as he was picking up the Mega, but unfortunately for him, the piercing sight used effectively.
5-minute warning.
Now with that 5-minute warning, Base has a pretty commanding lead. That one missed rail is going to be pretty tricky. The LG is fantastic from Base. He's very low on the armor count, but he has so much health that he's still going to be able to at least compete a little bit with this damage. Big delay between Heavy and Mega again, which allows Base to slowly but surely put his way into position. CNC looking to shut this one down. There's definitely time for him to make a comeback, but it's going to be a tricky comeback, especially off that rail and Heavy being collected at the same time.
Things are now starting to look increasingly difficult for CNZ. Base, pretty sizable lead for a map like this is gonna push in. This is pretty desperate. Small armor spawns at just the right time, but the rail clutches it out again for Base. If he had missed that one, he would have been done for, but he lands the shot. And now CNZ is in a very difficult situation. He has to chase down Base on a champion that has nothing in terms of movement, whereas Base can just use that piercing sight to avoid his opponent expertly.
Looking like Base is pretty likely to bring us to a final map situation, Flea. The way he's been playing this, that piercing sight has been fantastic for him. He's already playing a game of range and he's hitting the wonderful rails, getting the damage. That's going to be another one. And the piercing sight just makes CNZ's job so much more difficult. How many times has Base been in a better position for this Heavy alone, where he's able to rain down the rockets? His positioning makes it really hard for CNZ to return fire. Oh, wait a minute, 2v1.
Yeah. The turret. Base.
Push.
Yeah, he's stuck between a rock
Oh, no.
and a turret. Oh, he actually managed to take it down, but CNZ is there waiting around the corner with the shotgun in hand, though. Is this the start of a comeback catch-up? He has time, 3 minutes to work with, but 4 frags, that's a lot against the defensive monster like Base.
Okay, I mean, Base is going to make his position as hidden as possible right now. It's likely he's going to play this absolute reserved game. He has been able to find him. If CNZ can win this fight healthily, which is looking kind of risky, the rail does hit its mark, but he has to be careful not to eat it himself. Base goes down. Wait a minute, that's just in time for the Mega. And with 2.5 minutes to get 3 frags, he has got a turret, misses the rail. Going up this jump pad, it's risky, but he has no choice. He needs to make this count. Probably heard that being used, I think. The faint whispers of the visor. He's not a loud man, but you can still hear him.
CNZ hasn't had a hold of rockets in quite some time right now. Should finally be able to pick them up. That could help out tremendously. None of these close quarters engagements.
Stopwatch.
Base. We've seen him do incredible things on this map, playing the defensive game. One of the things he loves to do is set up near that heavy nail gun, the plasma, on top of the teleporter there, and that is just such an easily defendable position, but CNZ's gonna catch him out. The rockets are out! The ledge, no! CNZ's ledge, it strikes again. Catch up, this brings back such bad, painful memories.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. Now, it's 1.5 minutes to get 4 frags. This is going to be significantly more difficult. I'm never going to say never in the nature of it being a World Championships and all, but I think it's very fair to bet that we are going to be going into Blood Covenant, where things come to a close. CNZ gets a frag. Now, if he can get them quickly, there is a chance. But Base, he's going to be as slippery as possible now.
It is indeed still possible, but CNZ cannot waste any time. Even going for the Mega right now might be burning too much of the precious few seconds he has left to mount a comeback. And Base, as I mentioned, setting up down towards the teleporter, going up towards the nail gun. A lot of escape routes. CNZ missing important shots right there. That could punish him badly. And with 40 seconds left, catch up. I'm dotting this.
Now, a map like this in 40 seconds, I mean 35 now, definitely do not think he's able to do it in time. Base is playing the retreating game. If CNZ had an extra 30 seconds, I would be hopeful. Getting caught swapping weapons, this is just going to take a lot of time. Ah, the Mega goes as well. Everything kind of crumbled a bit for CNZ at the very end here, and he's incredibly weak. Base, sneaky. No, look out, he's there! Oh, the defensive position from Base was too real. And that does mean that we're going to be moving into a final map between these two players. Blood Covenant is going to be our destination. Strap yourselves in for 10 more minutes. And things get as close as I think a lot of people have been looking for. But what a start from Base in that entire map. Just controlling the vast majority of it, really. And the rail being such a key factor to that.
Absolutely, Base just, once he got into the groove of things, even when the scoreline was low, he just stayed on top of things so terribly well. And that is just that defensive, reactive playstyle that we know and love the man for. Now CNZ though, he tried his hardest, made some really good plays towards the end, had signs of life in him, absolutely looking like he might be able to make a comeback happen, but Base was just a little too strong. And as you mentioned yourself, the railgun, definitely one of Base's key tools of destructions this time around, time and time again, taking out his opponent like that. But of course, a lot of this had to do with the piercing side. Base, we know that he loves that ability. One of the players to always go for Visor whenever he has the opportunity, and it helped him out tremendously. One, to avoid CNZ when that comeback was kind of starting, and two, to just constantly catch him out with these excellent shots lined up before his opponent even rounded the corner.
Well, you look at how some players approach the game. Some players that are crazy aggressive prioritize aggressive champions. Base will play Visor because it fits his style like an absolute glove, doesn't it? Sounds to me like we're loading into our next map, so it won't be too long until we actually reach that point. But remember, everyone, qualification match. Both of these players have gone incredibly far to reach this point, and with us being down to this final map to find out who's going to be there, this is, by all accounts, until we go into Championship Sunday, the last hurdle for one of them. You know, it's not going to be down and out for the player that loses, but this is a comfort zone, Flea, that both of these players desperately want. But it's going to be close. With how these two maps have gone so far, the similar styles they play, the fact they are experienced with each other's game plan, teammates for crying out loud. Here we go again. We're going into the Blood Covenant. And remember, this is the Quake World Championship. So much is riding on this map for both of these players, and we'll see who gets that early comfort zone.
Yeah, the winner qualifies for his matches tomorrow in the grand finals, while the loser will drop down to the lower bracket, where he has his work cut out for him, seeing which other legends of the scene will be waiting down below. Starting things off on Base's point of view, running the BJ Blazkowicz, of course, the man with the dual wield and some kind of health regeneration as well, can give you so much explosive burst damage in these tricky situations. Now CNZ, not going for damage, favoring mobility. Athena, an absolute gem on this map in particular. That grapple hook gives you so much speed, so much freedom of movement, but also your stack's pretty low, so those tribals, they're gonna hurt.
They will, absolutely. But to kind of really echo what you just said, Athena is a monster on Blood Covenant. But Base will be more than aware of that. He knows he's going to get outsped. He knows if there are any of these positions where... I mean, the big thing is verticality for Athena. She can go where she wants, when she wants, and nothing really stops that. She hasn't got a double jump. She hasn't got to use a rocket jump or anything that will self-damage. And in these fights, she's quite explosive. The rockets can sometimes be a bit hard to hit, rails as well. The fact that she can zip around, Base is going to have to put a lot of faith in his accuracy. But if he's able to outgun CNZ every step of the way, he's going to be able to maybe really put a lid on this movement from CNZ if he can't get going.
We do expect Base to be passive as expected towards the beginning. Good amount of damage right there, peppered down. But one of the big reasons why base will be more reactive is if it comes down to him having to chase his opponent down, there's actually nothing he can do. BJ, pretty slow, doesn't have any movement abilities to work with. Whereas his opponent can just quickly zip away anywhere. Rockets versus Rockets, and it will actually trade. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. No real wins, no real losses. base gets the spawn with the Rocket. Looks like CNZ should be the first one to secure the heavy immediately, though base is there to bully. CNZ doesn't have any good weapons to take this fight, but the stack advantage will help him out tremendously. But as I was saying, base does not want to fall behind, because if he has to trail and make up frags, he's in such a bad spot.
Speaking of a bad spot, though, being right underneath the dual-wielding Rocket, there are definitely better places to be, and CNZ opts to just escape almost straight away. And base is going to be closer to this heavy. And he has got himself a rail too. The thing about this ranged game which might happen here is that he has no armor. Now he's been able to take it. That's the big win, I think, is that if he was caught out there and CNZ caught with even one rail or something similar, it would be a terrible start. But base is healthy and stacked.
Slowly making his way over towards the heavy. There's around 10 seconds between these items, meaning that we might be seeing the start of a rotation coming into play. One of these players could potentially set up to cycle both of them, get a lot of strong control and dominance of the map. So far though, base actually looking to maybe set up a trap. Heavy is up behind him, doesn't want to just go for it straight away. Wants to bait out his opponent, do a bit more damage. If he takes damage, he'd rather do so before the heavy than afterwards, of course. It could actually be CNZ who punishes that transgression, the peek over at the Rockets.
Both players likely have timing on these items, so they're not going to be shy of swinging in the middle of that map, knowing that both of you have an option to retreat to and lick your wounds, I suppose. CNZ getting that first rail. He does have way more health. Looking for an angle. Ooh, had a rocket out though. If he had a rail, perhaps there would have been some free damage. So much care and patience from both players. Same idea, same style. Yep. 40 damage being dished out by the Troy Bolt, but it's paid in kind. Almost exactly the same in return. Base gets the heavy, which means the Mega's gonna spawn. And of course, CNZ soaks it up.
This is a much more strategic type of game that we've seen for much of the day. Both of these players, of course, excel in that kind of play. And
look at the patience, man. Yeah. Look at the patience.
And base is just completely silent right now. Doesn't move an inch. He's just waiting for his opponent to come around the corner. CNZ is still right there. He sees the gun. Rocket peeking around the corner. base misses the rail, though. That would have been such a crucial shot to hit. He wants to do more. Heavy is up at CNZ. Uncertain whether or not to take it.
I think both of these players have had some real rail trouble so far. As I've said that, of course, CNZ finally hits a shot. Base not quite able to return the favor. Armor. This is something that CNZ is going to really control instead. And he's hitting a little bit of extra rails in these kind of ranged confrontations. But the ability to push in, the ability to go, right, I've done enough damage, this is where I go in. They're so careful with the positioning. But you'll notice there's always something to retreat to, isn't there? If they get hit by a rail, the rail damage doesn't really last for long. Okay, here's another one. base, a good start for him. With heavy spawning, does he think he's going to take it? Looks like CNZ might have similar ideas. He thinks the coast is clear, but is it? That is the question. Both players likely to take an item each, and I think they're going to do it again, but base putting on a delay. I really like that.
CNZ got the better information out of it too in that situation because base was holding out the railgun, and the railgun of course has that hum. It makes a bit of noise when you're holding it out. So CNZ knew exactly where base was, but base had no clue as to the exact location of his opponent. And this really has just been a complete back and forth all map. Damage exchanged, but no frags traded except for that one. The trade, both players going down at the same time towards the beginning. Ever since, it's really just been taken shot build. No longer for a second though. That recharge, the health regen helping him out tremendously. Base is low though. CNZ can't quite find the angle, and base retaliates beautifully.
He is incredibly weak now, though. This is a scary time. 10 seconds away from Mega. There are plenty of lights to retreat to. I've loved how CNZ has played this champion, right? That you're so used to seeing Athena on this map. She flies around. She's all over the place. CNZ, it's all about just getting in position. He's not even playing her particularly fast. It's just getting into a position whenever you want. A further extension of his own playstyle. He's going going to hear the hook being used. Base, beautiful job of recovering in what could have been a scary position to get caught in. Oh, looking for a drive by Rocket. Looking like it's going to go down to one frag here, Flea. Chat.
Very well.
Give either player energy right now because we are running out of time on this map. The World Championships, let's go.
I mean, both players just very well aware of the fact that if they drop a frag and they have to chase the score this late into the game, they're going to run into trouble. On the one hand, Base, if he has to chase down Athena while playing BJ, that's next to an impossible task because he's got nothing in terms of movement to work with. Similarly, if CNZ gets behind, well, he's up against Base, one of the most defensive powerhouses in the entire league, and we've seen exactly what Base can do when he gets the lead on the previous map. So a lot of caution, a lot of respect coming out of both of these players, but this is excellent from Base. Finally stringing together a few of those railgun shots, some precious damage coming out. CNZ does a pretty decent job at recovering. Love
nice.
the little double jump right there.
Wait a minute. CNZ, no armor. This is bad news. Heavy's here. Who's going to be confident? A little bit of push-out damage. That should be enough for CNZ to at least take the Heavy, and he will. Base conceding that, using it as a free mega. And it is going to spawn by the time CNZ gets here. And we go back to square one, as we often do. That is a great rail to start things, though. Base being extra careful, taking an armor on the way. He outstacks CNZ considerably here. And one extra rail that is not returned is an opportunity for Base to be crazy aggressive. Looking for a rail angle, looking for one. CNZ in the center point. Base trying to be as careful as possible. Less than 2 minutes on the clock. So much riding on this map. A miss.
Don't think we've seen any control from either player. Oh, this could be going bad for Base, though. Not really doing the damage he was hoping for.
Definitely not. And CNZ taking an armor makes matters a lot worse. The harpoon to try and go a little bit safer up top, not having to go through the more obvious teleporter, the strength of Athena, the layers of her mobility. There should be a light spawning soon here. Base didn't want to stick around for too long. Wait a minute. Looks like he might have temporarily got there a bit too early, but his return damage on CNZ is insanely high, and he saves his skin and actually outstacks CNZ for another time. The 1 minute warning is looming. Who's going to get that final frag? It's so hard to say. The tri-bolt, a good start. The rail, Base, you have to start hitting it. Another miss, but he's safe. The punish from CNZ to use the grappling hook. How long is he willing to sit down there, Flea? That is the question. We have less than a minute. We're absolutely going to go into a sudden death at this rate. Oh, the rail! CNZ.
Yeah, Heavy going towards Base. We really haven't seen any sort of consistent control once this map. It's always been one item to one player, the other to the other one. There's never really been a situation where either one of these champions have been able to secure more than a single one of the items or set up consistent control. Now CNZ at this point in time does have a bit of a stack advantage, and with 20 seconds left on the clock, this might as well be sudden death.
Oh, he was baiting CNZ to drop down there. The small little step of the jump back. Wait a minute. The aggression from CNZ. 10 seconds on the clock. Oh no, the GG's already come out. He doesn't have the distance or the means to chase it. CNZ, what a tournament this gentleman has had. What an insane result, Flea.
I mean, congratulations to the B100 clan, and in particular CNZ. They've at least got one of their players into the grand finals for tomorrow. And what was that? I blinked and I essentially missed it after so much time of very calculated, slow-paced games. All of a sudden, a burst of aggression, and CNZ gets himself that one frag that he needs with just 10 seconds left on the clock, and Base realizes there's nothing I can do about it. I don't have the speed, I don't have the weapons, he has the grapple hook. It's over and done. Congratulations, CNZ. Most definitely the dark horse of the tournament, qualifying for the grand finals tomorrow.
This is what finals are all about, the breakout performances. And by God, this was one hell of a breakout performance. We have so much to talk about, but it's not for now. We're going to go for a quick break, see you all real soon. We'll be back with some more matches. Quake World Championship. We'll be right back.